David Sponge, Fox News.
Thank you, sir. I have two questions. They're related. The first is looking forward. The House just voted within the last couple of hours unanimously from those that were present in the chamber to give presidential candidates the exact same Secret Service protection as sitting presidents. My first question is, can you handle that?
We've been doing that since July 13th, David.
So what is the purpose of the bill?
I don't know. You'd have to ask members of Congress that. What I can tell you is that when I say the highest levels of Secret Service protection, the former president is getting tactical assets. He's getting everything that the former president, that the current president has with respect to Secret Service assets.
And that was my second question. Can you explain that former President Trump is getting the same protection as President Biden and Vice President Harris? Because a lot of members of Congress on Capitol Hill are skeptical about that. There's a lot of talk saying clearly he didn't have the same protection because if he did, the golf course would have been secure in West Palm Beach. Can you tell people what's going on with that?
So with respect to West Palm Beach, what I can tell you without getting into our TTPs, our techniques, our tactics, our procedures, what I can tell you is that on that day, there were counter-sniper elements that were present with the former president on the golf course in proximity. There was an entire counter-assault team that was there in proximity. There was also a jump team in proximity. The advance agent who was part of the first element, whose goal was to sweep ahead, did his job. That young man is a very young agent early in his career. His vigilance, his reaction is exactly how we trained and exactly what we want our personnel to do. He identified a threat, an individual with a long gun, and he made swift decisions and took a swift action to be able to mitigate that. No shot was fired at the former president. The former president was not exposed to where he was on the golf course. And what I've said, and I said this Monday, that the procedures work, the redundancies work, so that high level of protection is working.
Nicole Scango, CBS.
Acting Director, thank you very much for doing this. Two questions, just one on West Palm Beach. The busy public road that is adjacent to that sixth hole where the suspect was hiding is a well-known blind spot on that specific golf course. Why did no one within the U.S. Secret Service sweep behind that fence line for threats?
They were sweeping ahead, Nicole. So what I just explained is that that lead element was going ahead sweeping.
But was there anyone behind the fence where the road was sweeping there to see if anyone was in the bushes?
Having been there and seen the vantage point, whether they were on the public side or the private side, the bottom line is the individual was detected.
On Butler, you testified before Congress that all assets requested for the Butler rally by Trump's detail were approved. But there are Secret Service assets that may have prevented the tragedy on July 13th, most notably a counter-assault advance team that would have surveyed the site ahead of time or enhanced counter-drone protection that might have prevented the tragedy. Were those specific assets requested by Trump's detail? If they were they denied? And if they weren't, why weren't they requested?
So the counter-assault team had an element that was there that had embedded with local law enforcement, so we had tactical elements in place. The counter-assault team leader that day had been in direct contact in the days leading up to July 13th with those tactical elements.
But just to be clear, did the Trump detail ask for any additional resources that were denied by the Secret Service?
So based on the information I have right now, the asset request, all of those assets that were asked for were approved. And so what we're looking at now is, were there any additional ones that came in through other channels? But what I can tell you, based on the information I have now, the assets were approved.